welcome back to Learn Amigurumi with Anniegurumi, and I'm very excited to bring this pattern to you today. Today we're going to make this pocket Christmas tree. It is a very quick pattern. It will not take you very long to make. However, if you want to make a bigger version of this, I'll teach you how to do that as well. It's pretty much the same concept. Oops. And I'm very happy that we've been moving along in this Amigurumi series in season 1, and we've been practicing how to make amigurumi, and I hope that you've been having fun as well. I'm actually learning a lot from this because it's helping me improve my pattern writing. The yarn that we need some pink for the cheeks, and I'm using Yarn Art Jean Plus, the one that we've been using in our previous videos. And if you also have that in black, we can use that for embroidering the little mouth that we have over there. And you don't need very much of that at all. We need some green and brown and yellow yarn. So I'm using this one right here. I'm just going to place it to the side so I can show you what yarn I'm using. I mentioned this in a previous episode of Learn Amigurumi, but this is the Himalaya Dolphin Baby. This is the chenille yarn that I made with the pig that I made in a previous episode. And this goes by really fast because this is quite small. So you'll see how quickly this works up. So make sure you grab that in your green, dark brown, and yellow. And meet me back here. So friends, what we need is obviously stuffing. And we also need a 4mm hook and a tapestry needle, sharp scissors, as well as 2 amigurumi eyes and their backing. This one is 9mm, and a stitch marker. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make a flat panel. So an amigurumi that we've done in this series so far, everything has been in the round and 3D shaped. However, this one we're just going to keep it flat so that you can learn a different way to make amigurumi. So, and grab your 4mm hook, also your stitch marker, and your green yarn. Starting the tree with the chenille yarn, it's really important to take off some of this fuzzy material that's on the yarn, so that way all the the chenille part of the yarn won't fly everywhere because it can get very messy. So all you need to do for that, you just need to very gently pull off some bits of this fuzz, just like that. And I think like about that much is fine. Just about that much. I think that's about maybe like 3 or 4 centimeters. And then my trick that I've noticed while making things with this yarn is to leave yourself a good tail from where you start, so that way less likely for this to kind of come out here and there. So what we're going to do is go ahead and make a slip knot. So if you remember from my previous videos, it's exactly the same as making a magic ring. So you're just going to go ahead and wrap that twice around your finger, take the bottom above, and then take the one that's on the bottom over your finger, just like that. Now we're going to pull a little bit so that we can see that knot. Go ahead and insert your hook, just like that, and then give it a nice little pull here. Now this flies by really fast. This stitch marker is more so that we can identify certain rows. So this is worked in rows, not in rounds. So remember that, please. Okay, we're going to chain 3. So that's our first one, second one, and third one. Now I know it's really hard to see. That's why I'm working in rows instead of rounds, so that you can kind of get used to the yarn. But if you find that the stitches are really hard to see, you can try the previous tips that I said in the piggy video, which is pairing it with a thinner yarn of the same color, or just going through the back loops only, which is a really good advice from my friend May from Amigurumi. So we have done 3 chains right here. Going into the second stitch or second chain from your hook, we're going to increase. So we're going to place 2 single crochets right in there, just like that. Now in this last one over here, we're also going to do the same by increasing. So we're placing 2 single crochets in that last chain. Okay, now we need to chain 1 and we're going to turn. So I'm going to turn this way. So go ahead and do that. Now we're going to go into the same stitch as the where your hook is coming out of. So go ahead and increase in there. So we're placing 2 single crochets in the first stitch. So what I'm going to do, can you see that right here? I'm just going to place the stitch marker just right on that where the chain 1 was. So that does not count as a stitch, okay? Just so you know. Now in the next one, we're going to single crochet and then single crochet in the next one. So that's 2 single crochets and increase in that last stitch. And chain 1. Now we're going to turn. This row is going to be our single crochet row. So go ahead and go into the same stitch, 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way across. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to repeat that sequence. And after you've done all of this, you're going to chain 1, turn. So now you can see that the stitch marker is on the side. That's telling me this is the increase row. So increase in the first, and then single crochet all the way until you reach the last stitch. So that's my last stitch right there. You're going to increase. So the first and last stitches of the row, we're going to increase. Chain 1 and turn. So we're going to repeat this for as many times as you want. So I repeated that 5 times for this, the height of this. But if you liked my gigantic one, you're going to keep repeating that until it's your desired size. So go ahead and let's see here. See, this is really easy because sometimes it's hard to see. Now I know, oh, there's no stitch marker here, so I'm going to just single crochet every stitch. So go ahead and do that. So we have a single crocheted across, chain 1 and turn. Now this is our increase row. So go ahead and increase that first stitch, single crochet, and then increase in the last. So go ahead and do that. Chain 1 and turn, single crochet every stitch, chain 1, turn, increase, chain 1 and turn, single crochet every stitch. And for me, it's pretty good practice to do it in rows like this because I can identify the stitches a lot easier. So I feel when I move on to doing this in the round, I'm more I feel like I've had some experience and then I can see the stitches more clearly. But if it's still too difficult for you, don't worry about it. It's totally fine. You go ahead and use the tips that I told you before, whether it's going through the back loops or using a matching yarn to pair together so that you can see. But it's totally okay. I can also see these being really, really nice gifts for my son's friends in class. So that's something that you could do as well. And, you know, I just think they're very sweet. And the big ones make very nice pillows, I think. So let's see here. I have always end, however long that you want it, always end on your single crochet across round, okay? Or rows, sorry. Always end on your single crochet across. So make sure that you're doing it evenly. So let's see here. I'm going to single crochet every single stitch. And then once you get to the last one, go ahead and give yourself a little bit of a tail, and remember to take off some of that fuzzy yarn so that it doesn't fly everywhere when you're weaving in your ends. Just like that. It's a great tip I learned from Tommy from Snips and Stitches. He's a very, very good friend, and he's very experienced with this yarn. So go ahead and pull out that yarn tail, and you can take out this stitch marker, but you can see here, this is the chain that we did at the beginning. So I repeated it 5 times, so you can see here's the first row and second row. So you can see that this chunk is like 2 chunks stacked on each other. So that's 2. So I repeated that sequence 5 times. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you're going to go ahead and make 2 of these. So we're going to weave in all of our ends. So I'm going to do that off camera. Actually, I'll do one on camera so that you can see how I do it. And then I'll do the rest of it off camera. It's the same as you do with anything else. You just add it to your tapestry needle like so. And then you're going to weave in a few stitches on maybe 2 or 3 rows, just so that it's nice and secure. It doesn't matter which side in this case, because actually you cannot tell the difference. And there, usually when you're working in flat, there is no right or wrong side because you're turning your work. So it is not a big deal. So that's all you do. You just go weave it in and out, and then cut a little piece. And I highly suggest that you pull out some of that yarn so it doesn't fray everywhere. And then you do the same for the top over here, and then I'm going to weave it over here just like that. And then, yeah, we're gonna do that. And then you can just cut the yarn, and maybe, unlike what I did earlier, maybe you cut a little bit more so that the tail shows, and then you can pull that tail part out. Just like that. And that's okay. We'll keep that on the inside when we sew it up together. So you're going to do that on both Christmas trees. And then after you're done with that, what you're going to need is some pink yarn. So go ahead and grab your pink yarn, set this aside, and what we're going to do is just make the cheeks. The cheeks are super easy. All you need is a magic ring of 4. So go ahead, make your magic ring, and place 4 single crochets inside that lovely ring that you have made. We're going to clean, fasten off so that we have perfectly round cheeks, and give it a long tail. Since this is not chenille yarn, it's very easy. It's just, you know, like the yarns that we used before. Go ahead and tighten up that magic ring. Let's clean, fasten off by placing this on our tapestry needle, we want a perfect circle. So keep in mind the yarn tail is coming out of the very last stitch of the round. We're going to go over, this is the first stitch of the round, and then going under the second stitch right there. What we're going to do is pull that yarn tail through, and then you can push the first stitch of the round a little bit back. We're mimicking that stitch by making our own stitch over it. So you go back into where the yarn tail was coming out of, which is the last stitch of the round. This seems confusing, but actually once you get the hang of it, it is a lifesaver. So you see right here, that's the last stitch of the round and the yarn tail is coming out. You're going to go right in the center of those stitches and go through. And then if you want, you can even go under that back loop, or sorry, that's not the back loop, that's the back bump that we have there. Just make sure that the yarn doesn't get tangled up here. You're going to go through just like this, very, very gently. And what this is going to do is it's going to make a V stitch on top. So make sure that it's nice and straight and you're very gentle with it, and adjust where needed. Yeah, just like that. And then you can just see, adjust it a little bit. Let's see here, sometimes it doesn't go as planned, and that's okay. You just have to play around with it. And there you go. So sometimes you have to push these stitches back a little bit with your tapestry needle so that it looks like it's a stitch on top. Can you see right there? So now I'm going to adjust the very last stitch of the round too by placing my tapestry needle under it and then manipulating the yarn just slightly, just like that. Okay, so that's looking good to me. And then go ahead and take your tapestry needle out. If your magic ring is nice and tight with no holes in it, then go ahead and cut a little bit of that yarn so that we don't see it, leaving the long tail so that we can sew it in. You're going to go ahead and make 2, and then we're going to work on the face. Okay friends, now we're going to embroider a smile. So go ahead and grab a small, a small length of black yarn so that we can embroider the smile. And I want to show you my tapestry needles. This one is the one that I use normally for any kind of like whip stitches and things like that. And this one is a much thinner point. As you can see, it's sharp. I like using this for embroidering smiles because I'm able to pierce through the yarn in the middle so that there's no obvious separation of lines. So I'll show you what I mean after I put this in. So it's a little bit difficult because the eye of this needle is very, very thin and very, very small, because this is actually for embroidering, or what is that called, cross stitching, or even like sewing up hems on your clothes. So you just very carefully place it on. It will go on, you just have to very carefully do it. Now we're going to have to figure out where we want our smile, and I like mine in the middle of row 19. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself a little smile. So let's see here. Do I want it here, or do I want it a little bit lower? Maybe I want it like right here. It actually really does not matter where you put the smile. It's a personal preference. So go ahead and put it wherever you like. I'm going to make a little tiny V, just like that, to make a really cute, adorable smile. Now this point comes in handy because I like to pierce it in the middle of the yarn right here before going through the other side, so that way it looks like one seamless line. And then very carefully you bring that through like that. So now it looks like one seamless line. And if it doesn't, you can just again use your needle to kind of play around with it, and it looks pretty good to me. And I'm very happy with that. I'm going to put that down just in case I decide I want to move the smile later. is no problem. So just like that, I'm very, very happy with this. Now we're going to put our eyes in, and I like to put the eyes in just above the smile. So I like to put it just to the right of the smile, one one row above where the smile is. So that was 19, so around 17 to 18. Row 17 to 18 is where I like to put it. If you're happy with where your eyes are, all you need to do is put the backings on. So go ahead and put the backings on your eyes if you're completely satisfied with their location, and make sure that they are secure. Now, if you like where your smile is, you check one more time, and I'm happy with that. You can double knot it, you can weave it in, double knot and weave in, it's up to you, but whatever you do, you make sure you don't tug on that yarn too hard, because on the other side is the smile. So use your method of securing it in. I'm going to secure it in after I do the cheeks. So once you have your cheeks, you use your regular tapestry needle with the big point here, and you go ahead and sew in the cheeks wherever you like. Now you remember that this is the right side of the work. So if you're seeing all these kind of lumpy bits over here, then that's not it. So make sure that you turn it to the side that looks nice and neat. And we're just going to place the cheeks on either side of the mouth, underneath the eyes. So you find a place that looks good for you. I'm going to time lapse this because we've done this in the past episodes. So yeah, I'll meet you back here after we're done with that. So we've now finished the embroidery on one of the panels, and this is now what we're going to do. We are going to place one panel on top of the other panel just like this. So we want to make sure, because sometimes depending on our tension, maybe it's not exact even if we do it, but it's pretty close. So now what we need is the same green yarn and our crochet hook. So go ahead and grab that. And remember the little tip about taking out some of the fuzzy parts of the yarn so that it doesn't fly everywhere. And trust me, it really it really does fly everywhere. It's a beautiful mess, but mess nonetheless. So go ahead and take out some of that so that then we don't have to worry about it. So, okay, I took out a decent amount, and go ahead and make a slip knot onto your finger by doing what we did earlier. Very similar things that we're doing. Place the crochet hook inside, kind of tighten it up a little bit so that it's a little snug, and this is where you have to decide where you want the trunk of the tree, like this one right here. So for me, I like to use the eyes as a gauge. So I like to take my stitch marker to remind me that I want to maybe have it aligned with the eyes like this. So I'm going to go ahead and put my stitch marker exactly where I want that brown to start. So for me, it's right there. So I know I should stop there. Now our first stitch that we're going to do, we're going through both sides of the tree. You're going to place that yarn behind the tree, and then you find the stitch where you want to start. So for me, it's going to be aligned with this eye over here. So I'm going to place my crochet hook through the first panel and the second panel, and you see how that yarn is going back. I'm going to yarn over just like that, and then bring it through the loop and tighten it a little bit with that yarn tail. That is called a slip stitch. So we're going to slip stitch all the way around. So go ahead and insert through both panels on the next stitch and slip stitch. Go ahead and make sure that everything is lined up perfectly, so that way nothing is wonky, just like that. And then slip stitch. This corner over here, the same thing. Make sure you're going through both panels, and then we're all good, just like that. Okay, now we're going to go on this edge over here. It's the same thing over and over again. So go ahead and go into the next stitches. Just make sure that they line up. So wherever you see these little horizontal bars, those are a nice indicator to line them up, because those are where we did our chain ones. So go ahead, and every now and then you can check to see if it's to your liking, and I strongly suggest that you use a very loose tension. Like, don't make this too tight, because it will curl up. So go ahead and do that. Let's go all the way around until we hit that stitch marker, so that we know when to stop. So skip the stitch over there. And going around the top just like this. And then going around to this side, very loosely, please. Loosely, but enough so that it is secure. So you will have to use your judgment on that. And so far, this tree is looking amazing. It also kind of looks like a popsicle, doesn't it? So I'm sure you could use popsicle colors and it would be adorable. Let's see here. Just slip stitching a border until we get to that stitch marker, which is telling us that is where our brown needs to be. So now we're at this corner here. This one I'm going to do a bit loosely so that I can turn. And then I'm very happy with this. This is going to be such a lovely pattern. You can make so many of these so quickly for any of your friends. So I like it right there. So let's see. That looks good to me. So go ahead and cut the yarn tail. Remember the tip I told you to take out some of that fuzzy yarn before you move along. So that way, and then you pull out that yarn tail, take out this stitch marker, and now what we will do is let's go ahead and weave in these ends, because we really don't need these ends right now. So do that. Oops. Go ahead and weave in those ends, which will make it a lot easier when we're switching to brown. So I'm doing that there, and then you just tuck it on the inside, and then you just push it right in there. And then this one, the same. And then weave it in maybe 2 or 3 rows, just so that you know that it's not going to come back out. Do the same by tucking it on the inside. Did you see that fuzzy come out? Now it is up to you if you would like to add stuffing to it or not, but you can see this edge here that we've created. I like to just tuck it a little bit out like this. You don't have to. That's something I like to do. And it's a nice looking Christmas tree. You do not need a lot of stuffing for this, because it is so small, a little pocket size. So go ahead and stick some stuffing in to your liking. Doesn't have to be too much. I like to keep it relatively, light and fluffy, just enough so that it has a body to it, like a 3D aspect, but I don't like to put too much in because I like it to be squishy. So you will still need this, as well as your brown, this one right here, your brown chenille yarn. Grab your hook, and you're going to, don't forget to take the fuzzies off like I did. I'm going to give myself a little room and make a slip knot. Now for the tree trunk, we're going to just pick up the stitches that are left over, and we're just going to do it in the round because it's much easier that way. So what I like to do is I like to just go right in between where the seam is right here first. So that is our first single crochet there. You can tighten it up just slightly, and then pick up, it depends on how big you made your opening here, but I would just pick up some single crochets in the stitches that are remaining, and then when you hit the seam, just add a single crochet to the seam also, so that way it looks nice and neat. So see, that's where the seam is. I'm just going to go right in the middle of it, so that way it doesn't skip or get a hole right there. And then go ahead and go to the back panel, and then pick up some single crochets on each of the stitches that you have remaining. So this is round 1 of the tree trunk. Let me get some more yarn. So round 1 is complete. Now we've returned back to the seam here, and this is going to be round 2, which is so lovely because it's only 2 rounds, but I like to place a stitch marker there because it's so hard for me to see. So go ahead and just place 1 single crochet in every stitch that you made in brown. Now the chenille yarn is very forgiving, so if you're having a hard time seeing the stitches, don't worry, you can kind of guesstimate a little bit. You can also just take a look at the brown that's underneath. You say, oh, there's a stitch there, and then go around just like that. The only thing I advise is when you're picking up stitches, make sure that it's an even number of stitches, okay? So now we've returned to our stitch marker. I'm going to set that aside. And at this time, if you would like to stuff some more, this is the time to do it because now we're closing up our work. We're going to flatten the brown part, the trunk part, and we're going to slip stitch through both panels, just like we did on the Christmas tree, but we're just going to flatten our work and then go through both sides and slip stitch across, making sure that we go through both sides. And I just think it's so fast and so easy to make, and it makes me really happy because it's really adorable, and it's very, very satisfying when you can get something done quickly and see how adorable it is. So now we're going to cut a bit of a tail, and also again take out some of that fuzzy part of the yarn so that it's easier to weave in our ends without it going everywhere, just like that. This is an amazing tip that Tommy told me. And then just take out the yarn tail very, very carefully and weave in that end. Now you can add whatever accessories that you want, pom-poms or, you know, garland. You just make sure that it's all secure before you put the 2 panels of the tree together, and you can make it bigger by continuing the two row increase and single crochet across that I told you about before. You just keep increasing and just make sure that both panels are the same size, and you know, adjust your trunk accordingly, but otherwise it's pretty much the exact same thing. So you can make it in any size that you like. So go ahead and weave in your ends, and I am going to cut it right here, take out that fuzzy part, and I'm going to try to hide that yarn tail in so that it doesn't keep coming apart while it's inside. Now this is the part where it's up to you if you want to make a star or not. But if you do, go ahead and grab your yellow yarn, and it's actually quite easy. So with your yellow yarn and the same hook, this is chenille yarn as well, go ahead and take off some of that yarn fuzziness again, because this, it gets everywhere. Okay, so now we're going to make a magic ring. So go ahead and make your magic ring and place, you see how it's coming out already, so a good amount should be taken off. Okay, place this here, secure your magic ring just like the video that I made about the stitches, just like that. Go ahead and make 5 single crochets into that magic ring. That's my first one, that's my second, third, fourth, and 5th. Okay, very gently tighten up your magic ring so that there's no hole. Okay, for this round we're going to go into the stitch and slip stitch right there into the same stitch, half double crochet. Now this is a new stitch. You're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch, yarn over, draw up. You have 3 stitches here. You're going to yarn over, go through one loop, yarn over, and go through all 3. Now you're going to go into the same stitch and slip stitch. So that makes our first point in the star. We're going to repeat this. Sorry about that. We're going to repeat this in every stitch. So you have 5 points in this star. The next stitch, if you're having a hard time, you just have a careful look right there. You see that it's coming out here, so it must be right here. So yarn over and slip stitch that, half double crochet, yarning over, insert, yarn over, draw it up, yarn over, go through 1, yarn over, go through all 3, slip stitch into the same stitch. So our second point is done. Now let's repeat that. Slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch. Third one done. Now 4th one. Slip stitch, half double crochet into the same, slip stitch into the same. This is our last point over here. So go ahead, slip stitch, yarn, half double crochet, slip stitch. So I am very happy with that star right there. And give yourself a fairly long tail. Give yourself some room on this side as well. So do the chenille way, right? Get rid of some of that yarn. All right. And then gently pull out that yarn tail. And now you make a second one of these. So I've already done that. And I'm going to get rid of the yarn tail that is right from the magic ring. I'm getting rid of that. I'll do the same on this one. So the yarn that's coming from the yarn tail, just cut it a little bit close to the middle. Take it out so you know that this side is the wrong side. So what we're going to do now is take one of the stars and weave in the ends. So I'm weaving in this one because the yarn tail is a bit smaller. So go ahead and weave that in and do your best. Don't need to work as quickly as I am. There we go. And then I'm going to cut that yarn. Now we're going to work through both panels, and I know I did slip stitching earlier, but for this purpose, because we're going to put it on the tree eventually when we reach the last 2 over here, so Make sure that the wrong sides are facing each other. So that's where the magic ring was coming out of. So make sure you put that there like that. We're going to do a series of whip stitches to kind of sandwich these together, but when we get down to this the bottom 2 points, please do not whip stitch them yet, because we will stitch them onto the tree itself. So go ahead and whip stitch them together, which is just going through both panels and going over like this, and that secures them. So go ahead and do it for every single stitch, and take your time with this, so that way you know exactly where they are lined up and it looks exactly the way that you want it to look. With the holidays that are coming up, this would be a great gift for all my nieces and my friends' kids. I actually don't have any nephews, I just realized. I have all nieces, and then I have a lot of friends with kids, so this would be a very nice gift, I think, for the holidays, or this could even be a nice addition to your gift wrapping if you're making it just on your own for yourself or for your friends. It's a really adorable gift. So I'm going to go all the way until I reach the last 2 points. So because this chenille yarn is like super forgiving, you can't even see even if you do make a mistake, which is amazing. And so, oops, fell out. So it's really nice to work with sometimes, even though it's very finicky. So let's see here. And then now I'm on the last 2 points. And this one I like to place on top of the tree. So later, let's see, I'm gonna have to cut this. Okay, so now I've reached the last 2 points of this star. So I like to put my tree upside down, and I like to place the star right on the top of it right there. I like to align it with these stitches that I have here, and I found that just going through the Christmas tree like so and then just sewing it on to the best of your abilities. So for me, I'm going to go through both sides of this star, and then I'm going to go to the next stitches on the star, but make sure you go through both sides so that it's nice and even, okay? So going through the back side of the tree, and it's amazing because you can't really even see the yellow yarn once you pull it snug a bit, so don't worry about that. And even if you did, it's not a big deal, I think. So I'm gonna go into the next stitch. So I'm gonna go through both sides of the star on this, and going through that as well. So you find what works for you. This works for me. I'm also going to secure it by going through the top of the star, or the middle of the star like that, and then going back into the tree. So that way it's nice and snug on the tree. So I hope this is clear. I'm going through the back of this, picking up a stitch from the star just like that, and then going back down into the tree and coming out over here. Now if it's secure, you go through the star again and weave in your ends through the star just like that, just like we always do, just like that. And cut your excess yarn and get rid of some of that fuzzy material, and I have a little bit of this sticking out. That's just no problem. And friends, your tree is complete. So how was it? Was it pretty easy to make? I think it was a pretty fun experience using this yarn. I definitely love it. It's very, very soft and plush. So the yarn name is Himalaya Dolphin Baby. You can find that at hobiumyarns.com. A huge thank you to Hobium Yarns for sponsoring the yarns and the materials needed for this video series. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. Press the like button and leave me a comment letting me know if there are any improvements or anything that you're looking for. We only have a few more left in this series. Season 1 will be ending soon, and I'm brainstorming already for season 2. So if you really enjoyed this, please let me know. And if there's anything that you're looking for, I'm all ears. I'm really, it's a learning experience for me as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.